a year and a half off. And you have a year and a half off spread out over those next years so that the essential services continue. But let's go back to this 85%. Okay, now the 85% have a year in which there's no work required. In order to do that, we have to have made preparations during the other 6 years, and consequently, we've got a new job task, namely a new job category, namely the people who are working on preparing for the 7th year, and they, in particular, are working on making sure that there's enough food for everybody, that there's enough distribution mechanisms for the food, and that any other vital services that you can think of can be provided on the 7th year. But for the rest of the population, there's no work and there's no money, okay? And to make sure that there's no money, we create a different a different distribution system based on money that has been made for the sabbatical year only, and that you can use, but you can only use it for very limited purposes because all the stores are going to be closed like they are today, except those that are needed for essential services. So you can't go buying all the stuff that you might have been wanting to buy all your other 6 years. You have to buy it in the other 6 years. But in the 7th year, it's now the food is distributed equally to everyone. Okay, so rich people don't get better food than poor people. Similarly, in going to let's say we have restaurants that are still open. Okay, but the restaurants will not be able to take money. They'll take vouchers, and each person has the same amount of voucher for food vouchers. So you can't accumulate more than anybody else. You live the way everybody else is going to live. So that's one element. Now, will that put the United States behind other countries in accumulating goods? Well, of course, this would work best if it was done globally. But if we start with the United States, the truth is that we don't need a new computer every year. We don't need a new car every year. We don't need anything that's being produced, or at least most things that are being produced. We don't need to have them produced on the 7th year. And for people who are saying, but wait a second, I ran out of toothpaste, and I have no place to go to get more toothpaste. They're not making more toothpaste. So that's the job of the people who are working to prepare for the 7th year, that they stockpile enough of those kinds of supplies. Okay, your hammer and your nails and your paint and whatever. But for the rest of us, toilet paper, right? Toilet paper. We're experiencing it, right? We're seeing people can survive there. Only some people can survive through this because of the inequality of distribution of money. But there will not be any unequal distribution of what you can use to purchase things for in the sabbatical year. Now, what are we going to do in the sabbatical year? Well, that's a lot up to each of us. There will be some people who will want to learn new skills, and there will be people who will be happy to teach those skills. That's what. But nobody's going to be doing it because they have to do it. There'll be some people who want to just spend their time playing tennis or swimming or having whatever kind of fun that you want for your life that year. You can do it. There'll be some people who are engaged in learning new skills, and there'll be other people who will be joyously teaching their skills, and that can include skills that they can then use to switch jobs in the next year. That is, people can there'll be people who are training them in medical skills and in various health skills, and there are people who are training them in whatever they want to do. But now you're saying, well, where are we going to pay those people who are going to teach? No, we're not going to pay anybody. People will just want to do what they want to do. And if there's nobody wanting to teach, then there'll be nobody who can teach you a certain kind of skill. But trust me, there are a lot of people who would love to be able to, who have skills of certain sorts that love to be able to teach it in a society, in a year in which everybody else was giving away whatever they have to share. But if you don't want to give away and just want to swim or play tennis or do exercises or sleep until noon and just eat after that, whatever, it's fine. You're off for a year. You get to do what you want. Now, there's no government telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Downside of that is there are a lot of services that you may not get in that year. Okay, that's a problem. But you can survive it. But there will not be production. As a result of no production, you're giving the earth a real gift, because if you're not producing new materials and new things, you're not taking the resources out of the ground, then you're giving a huge gift to the earth. Now, of course, some of this has to be based on us already switching to a new way of getting energy, because we're not going to have a sabbatical year in which we're still using up stockpiles of gas or other energy sources that have been taken from anything that's been in the ground. So we will have to make sure that that there's already in effect a ban on getting any kind of fuel from the earth. The earth has to be given a real rest, and not just in that year, but in all years from now on. We've exhausted what we ought to be taking from the earth in the way of coal or natural gas or whatever else gets used as a supply for. So that'll give an impetus for the rest of the 6 years for us to further develop those alternative energy sources. I think I'll stop there for a second and then open it up for anybody who wants to argue about this is crazy or impossible or or not even deserving of attention. Yeah, and maybe the best way is if you could send your questions on the chat. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, people are doing it.
Okay, but some people might not do it. So at the bottom of your screen is a thing that says an orange.
It's not orange on there.
Oh, it's not orange on yours? What color is it there?
It's just white. It's orange on yours because we haven't looked at those. On the bottom of your screen, there's a chat. Most of you know how to do it because many of you are chatting. So you can put your question in chat. So I'm just going to read some. One said, Jeff Siegel asked, if politicians put forth this policy, would they then be seen not necessarily positive as religious, trying to push their religious views on others?
You can call it religious, but we're not arguing for it on the basis of religion. So there's nothing wrong with religious people supporting policies that come from their religion. But the argument for it, what's wrong is if the argument for it is only a religious argument, like we have to do it because God commanded us to do it. Okay. For some Jews, like me, for example, I'm glad that it was in Torah. But if it weren't in Torah, I wouldn't have had that idea. But if I'd had the idea, I wouldn't make the argument for it on the basis of that it's in Torah and you should obey the Torah. So there's nothing wrong with a religious person saying, I want to eliminate poverty because Jesus did it. Okay, it's fine. That's fine. But if you want it as a policy for the rest of us, then don't base it on that Jesus said it. Okay, or that the Torah said it, or that that Muhammad said it or whoever, or that, base it on reasons that would stand up even if you didn't believe in a God or any kind of religious community. So
Gary was saying, is the question of whether the U.S. got behind in accumulation really a question worth thinking about? We think of accumulating food or nails or books as individuals for use. Accumulation in the world currently is accumulation to get more, accumulation to get more. When we think about a Shabbat of Shabbats, are we really imagining a world of accumulation as a non-goal?
yes, absolutely. And the point of this whole exercise is to get people to a point where they recognize that there's no need to accumulate more and more and more stuff. But in case you thought, well, but wait a second, people just naturally accumulate, it's part of our gene structure, whatever. Great, you'll see in doing when we set up the sabbatical year as that alleged natural need starts to fade from human history. And then, of course, we get to the Jubilee. And the Jubilee will be, again, a total redistribution of wealth, okay? Unlike the sabbatical.
Wealth, so that was the question earlier, wealth or just land? That was the question
Yeah,
earlier. And you said just land, but
okay,
now you're saying
no, it was
else.
land in the Torah, but it's all because the primary form of wealth in
That's what I said.
in years of those societies was ownership of land. But so taking that principle of from Bihar and applying it to the modern world means, okay, then whatever is wealth in the society gets redistributed. So yeah, if you've accumulated sources of wealth, they get redistributed. But everything else doesn't get redistributed. So it's not again, it's not like you're going to lose your computer or your books. Then nobody's going to come and say, "Wait, you have too many books." No, that's not what's going to be redistributed in the. But a serious redistribution. How do we accomplish a serious redistribution of wealth? Well, the first thing is you ban and make illegal the use of any previous forms of money, and you create a new money system that from then on for the next 50 years is the legal tender. So let's say you've buried your $50,000 retirement in the backyard so that the government can't get it. Doesn't matter because nobody can use that starting in the 50th year and on. Redistribution of all money means that, and redistribution equally. In other words, everybody gets the same amount to start off with in the 50th year for the next 50 years, so that it's all equal again and made totally equal. So that now this is only if you still have a society in which there's money. But let's imagine you find that there's something useful in that form of distribution, then it's fine. We start out with a redistribution of all money and the banning of any money from any other source. So also, if you own stock or whatever, it's all wiped out. No, but that's in the Jubilee. But in the 7th year, what's wiped out is debt. Now, I just want to say one thing more about wiping out of debt. Okay, I told you about the struggle between the two consciousnesses, right? Well, so here's another interesting factum that you should know, that the more radical rabbis who were living under Rome, the Roman rule, which ruled from about 50 or 60 before the Common Era to into the 1st and 2nd centuries of the more radical rabbis participated in a revolution against Rome that was led by Bar Kokhba in 132 CE. That is not before Jesus, but after Jesus, because we're still using the Christian calendar. So, and Rabbi Akiva and many of his students joined in that rebellion against the Roman rule. Unfortunately, we didn't win. Now, I don't know, it wasn't very likely we were going to win against Rome, because Rome had control over the entire Middle East at that time, and much of Europe and much of Asia. Not all of Asia, but a big chunk of Asia. So we didn't win. And when we didn't win, it wasn't just that we didn't win, but in 135 CE, when the Romans reconquered Judea, they killed the estimates go from 100,000 to 500,000 people, and expelled lots of others. Akiva was one of the 10 rabbis who were famously tortured. Now, as in every kind of revolutionary struggle, there are some who are with it, and there are some who think it's not worth it and not wise to participate. So the rabbis who wrote the Mishnah being the first part of what then became the Talmud, they were the ones who didn't get involved. They were the ones who didn't become part of the revolutionary struggle. And they had the message in their head of Jewish law has to be realistic about the unfair distribution, about the unfair distribution of power in the world, because that's just how it is, and we've got to accommodate to that. So they were, so the Mishnah was, in my view, is written by the people who didn't get in, didn't want who were in the universities when we were struggling against the war in Vietnam, who looked on us and said, yeah, I think you're right, but never wanted to get involved in the street, okay? Never wanted to go out and demonstrate, never wanted to do anything concretely about it. Good people, many of them wonderful people, but nevertheless, those are the people who then ended up writing the Mishnah and then the Talmud. And in the Talmud, they take a very, there was a big blow against what had happened in the revolutionary consciousness. So those kinds of rabbis had already moved against the most revolutionary, or one of the revolutionary aspects of this chapter. Not just this chapter, but of the other places where it says to ban that all loans are forgiven in the seventh year. They said, no, we've heard from others that if we ban all, if all loans get forgiven every seventh year, that the rich people will not give money to the poor people. They will not lend money to the poor people. And so it'll actually work against the interests of the poor people. So in order to preserve that, we have to find a way around this Torah command. Now, by the way, it's not brand new that the rabbis were seeking ways to get around parts of the Torah command that seemed hard for them. So there's, for example, a command about the Torah that says, if you have a rebellious child and you can't change that rebelliousness, and then eventually you bring the child to the heads of the city, and they can't convince him to change his or her ways, then that child should be killed. Okay. So it says Ben Serero Moreh, this rebellious child. Okay, and what the rabbi said about that is this Ben Serero Moreh, it never existed. if there were such a case, we'd stick with what the law says. But okay, so in this case, in the case of this, Rabbi Hillel already came up with a way to get around it. He said all these loans should be made as they come close to the time of the seventh year. They should be given to the court of the Beyt of the Jewish community, and the Jewish community owns it. Now, the Beyt is not instructed. The requirement of forgiving loans is only an individual requirement. It's not a requirement of the court of the community. So therefore, they can enforce it and enforce the terms of the loan and keep the loan going without it having to be forgiven. In my view, this was like the big counter-revolution of, it was a huge counter-revolution, because what it was saying was, we're not going to challenge the distribution of wealth in the society. We're not going to forgive loans. And hence we're going to be on the side of the people who are richest. Their argument that nobody will give a loan is based on a notion that they were going to give loans to poor people anyway. But actually, if you go into downtown Oakland here, or into any other comparable place, you will not find many poor people getting loans from rich people. Actually, you'll find nothing like it, nothing. Okay, it's the opposite. You know, they're supporting positions and government people who want to take more money from poor and give it to the rich. That's what we've had for the last 50 years, is a redistribution of wealth in this country, a fantastic redistribution from the bottom to the top, not the other way. So just calm down, Michael. All right, so that happened, and as a result, that now what did the more progressive people do in response to that? Well, what they did was that they created the Hebrew free loan, and it's existed ever since, up till and including today. In any major city in the United States, there will be a Hebrew free loan, and they give loans to other fellow Jews without any interest being charged at all. And that was part of, that was another command of Torah, is that you shouldn't charge any interest, okay? So that was a step in the way of, a way of dealing with the problem that the Hillel had created, Hillel and his fellow rabbis had created, by developing what was called prosdor, which is a sort of a way of getting over the requirement to forgive loans. What's the next question? Is there?
What time are we going to?
12:15 was what we said.
12:06.
Yeah, what's the next question?
Hold on, there's just various conversations happening. So someone was wanting to hear that, well, somebody said, where is it? How do we deal with the stress and trauma of those who have no will to be transformed and are caught in the idol of power? And what about those who just have such despair, they have no hope or possibility it could happen? How do we deal with the fear voice within all of us, frankly, right? Like,
yeah, of course, we all have it. How do we deal with it? We have to build a movement that is talking about a vision of a world based on love, kindness, and generosity that embodies that in its own reality. There are left movements that somehow, to some degree, talk about a redistribution of wealth, but in a very weak way. They call themselves socialists, but they don't call for ownership of the means of production by the working class. So, but the issue is that our movements do not embody an ethos of love, caring, kindness, and generosity. I've been involved in the left for 55 years, And I have almost never encountered a meeting, a rally, or any other organized event by a left group that encouraged people to take some of their time at that meeting to meet other people and learn about them and their needs and share with them about what your needs are and get to know them. And much less say part of our goal as a movement is to create a movement that is an embodiment of love, kindness, and generosity. Though this is stuff that I talk about in much more detail in the book Revolutionary Love. And if you want to know a first step is take Kat Zavis's training on how to be a spiritual activist. And you simply go to spiritualprogressives.org/training. She's just finished one a few weeks ago, and now she's got another one scheduled for June. We're training people in how to do this, but yes, it's going to take consciousness change. So you're looking at somebody and saying, this guy's got to be crazy. They thinks that this can happen. And I'm saying to you, that's exactly what the early women's movement was faced. And it's exactly what the early civil rights movement faced. And it's exactly what
Moses faced.
Moses faced, absolutely. But it's also what the people who said gay people should have the right to marry.
Slaves.
So it's what the abolition movement faced. It's always everybody around is going to say, be realistic. It's not going to happen. No, it'll happen when enough of us make this our issue and say, we need a world based on a new bottom line of love, kindness, and generosity. And we're going to fight for it. And we're going to use our energies to build that movement and to talk to everybody we know, to bring the messages to you, to create little study groups around the book Revolutionary Love, which is a first step in that direction, to take Kat's training and to build an organization and then a movement for love and justice, the love and justice movement. And at first it will look like, yeah, if you join us in doing that, your friends will say you're crazy. And as they did to the early feminists and said, they're crazy. I mean, the second wave of feminism in the 1960s. You're all crazy. Don't you know patriarchy has been around for last 8,000 to 10,000 years, and you're going to try and challenge patriarchy? And who are you? A little group here in Berkeley, and another group in Madison, and another group in Ann Arbor, and another group in Seattle, and another group in Washington, D.C. Altogether, you add up to about 200 people. Okay, you're going to change patriarchy? Forget it. Stop it. Don't even talk that way. You'll just discredit yourself. Nobody will pay attention. Okay, but actually, the pain and suffering in the society is very deep, and we have to talk to that pain and help people understand that it's based in the structures of a society that sees what is valuable as the maximization of money and power rather than love, kindness, and generosity, ethical and environmental sensitivity, and our capacity to respond to other human beings as embodiments of the sacred, and responding to the earth with awe, wonder, and radical amazement, rather than looking at it as something that could give us products that we could turn into a profit by selling it. So go ahead.
I want to add something here. I saw that, Heidi. I'm so excited. And what I want to add is that I want you all to think for a moment of examples that you've seen during this virus of people living into the world of a new bottom line. Because we're actually seeing it. It's happening all the time. And I can just give you one incredible example. There's a movement in Oakland to get all the homeless people housed in hotel rooms. And they have a fundraiser. It's called Hotels Not Graves. How's that for kind of direct? And they've raised close to $50,000, I believe, at this point. And I got an email about it, and I'm engaged. I work with them a bit. And one of the things that somebody wrote was, I've given all of my savings to get people off the street. I was like, okay, I can give money for this. This person gave all their savings. Like, I can write a check today. And so that's an extreme example, but it is happening that companies are transforming their work into making masks. People are donating. Companies that have eggs are giving them to food banks. So it's happening both on an individual level and a societal level. And one of the things that's really important for us to think about is, as long as we as individuals continue to participate in living in a world of a new bottom line by donating money here and supporting people there, which is critical because people are really suffering, but don't simultaneously talk about the need to transform society, we will uphold the scaffolding of capitalism that's killing us all, rather than bring it down as we uplift those in need. So we both need to, for those of us who have the resources, donate and participate in efforts to actually alleviate immediate suffering and articulate that as part of a challenge of the systems and structures of oppression.
Right. Otherwise, what happens is eventually this will go away, 2-3 years maybe, but it'll go away, and people will say, "What did they learn? Nothing," because or that there are a lot of good people there, but not that something needs to be fundamentally transformed in the society. Something that so there's an incredible opportunity right now when people are still in this situation. Now the problem is they're giving their life energies. They're giving people who are volunteering to help in the medical field and risking their lives and so forth. But there's no ideological framework for it. So they're not using this moment to also teach others about the possibility of a different kind of world. And that's what is needed at this moment, and not just at this moment, but ongoingly, to articulate the vision of a different world. It'd be like if people were win a strike against General Motors, okay, or some other. Okay, yes, you got a higher wage as a result of being out for 6 months or whatever, and then you're getting a higher wage. But meanwhile, you haven't been educating anybody about what's so screwed up about there being a company that accumulates all this wealth and doesn't share it with anybody except when they're coerced to do it by their workers, and then only to the workers and only in a inadequate amount. So if we're, what I'm saying to you is this chapter, this vision of Torah is here to tell us, don't be realistic, okay? The earth doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God.
The earth is telling us that right now.
And the earth is telling us 15. Exactly in the same, so that's a religious view. You don't have to buy that to buy the rest of what I'm saying. But yeah, the religious perspective is, this is all part of what God told Moses on the mountain, that the earth belongs to me, and that if you don't live according to a world of justice and kindness and generosity and caring and sharing what you have with others, the world won't work anymore. Now, maybe when people got that at first, they said, well, wait a second. We've had 2,000 years of class society. Where was God in all this? Or where was? And the answer is 2,000 years. Well, it says in the Psalms, 1,000 years are like a minute in God's eyes. This is nothing compared to even human history. We've been around for at least 100,000 years. Some people say 1,000,000 years. There's a tiny little percentage of that history has been one in which we lived in class society and in patriarchy. These things were created by human beings and can be overcome by human beings. But we have to do it. And of course, everybody's going to say, that's just what Moses said. Who am I to do this? Moses says to God. Who am I? I can't even speak. I speak, and I'm a stutterer. I can't speak. Okay, God says, okay, your brother can speak. I mean, you don't, you don't need to be the one who's going to do all the important parts. You just have to do one part to testify to the possibility of possibility, to challenge those who are telling you it can't happen, to tell them that people all around you right now in this moment, just as in 2001 when the World Trade Center was coming down, and hundreds of people came down to there and rushed up the stairs to try to save people. Actually, hundreds of people died saving people, trying to save other people, and many more than hundreds went up into that building those buildings to try to save people from. They didn't know the people. They were acting out of revolutionary love, out of the love that's commanded in 2 weeks ago when we read the previous Kedoshim Parsha that says, you shall love the other. You shall love the stranger. Who's the other? They already had a command that said you should love your neighbor, but this is no, you should love the one you don't know. That is the part of Torah that's reported more the command of Torah that's repeated more frequently in various variations of it than any other command in Torah. It's the most frequently. Why the most frequently? Because it's the hardest. We know it, but it's also the most important. It has to be that we can love others who we don't know. We care about others. So caring society is possible. Now, I think we should end, right? What time is it?
Yeah, it's 12:20.
Okay, so let's do the ending prayer if anybody's willing to stay for that. Page 69.
I'll share it. Give me 1 second. See
Okay.
if my thing is still. Yes.
And we'll do a prayer for healing, and we'll do a Kaddish. Okay. Okay, so the prayer at the end is Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Misheberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Yivarech Birapeh et hacholim. May she who blessed her ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, send a blessing of healing to all of the people in our world, many of whom we don't know, and people we personally do know.
And please feel free to put into the chat the names of those for whom you're holding in your heart that are in need of healing, so that we can all see them and hold them in our hearts as well in a collective community of healing, because that uplifts the energy of that person to be healed.
So would you put their names down now?
I'll just name some of them.
And if you want to name some, okay.
Yeah, I'll call out some.
And you can call them out also. Call it out loud
Schaffer,
as well as
Dolores Weissman, Zev Ben Henna, Chaim Levish Ben Shana Simcha, Talia Bat Elisheva, David Murray, Bruce Marshall, SW, Alan Feldman, Leonard Kurt, Stacy Axelrod, Rashid Patch, going back between folks suffering with coronavirus generally, Jack Foster, or Jacques Foster, Ofer Agam, Marisha LaRue, Belora Lilly, forgive my mispronunciation, Max, Edwin, Bob, Mike, Warner. Great. So let's all for a moment. We've heard a bunch of names. We don't know these people. We don't know so many people who are in need of healing, but let's just, in our mind's eye, picture someone that we do know in need of healing and see in their face the faces of all in need of healing.
Vayishlach lehem refuat hanefesh refuat haguf hashtar b'gala v'zman karev v'nomar amen. Send to them a healing of body and soul, and let them return to us fully healed. And let us say amen. And now the ending of the Torah service. And
Page 72.
yeah,
Or
let's
73 here.
yeah, let's read this paragraph, first paragraph together out loud. You can
So
read it.
we'll read it and then you read it too with us. Even though we can't hear
Read
each
it.
other, the collective voice will uplift the energy.
Remember who we really are. We are the outpouring of God's love, waiting to be fully expressed. We are the platform on which the evolution of consciousness of the universe is about to take its next step toward fuller awareness. We are the universe's best hope, bringing an awareness of unity, interconnection, and interdependence. We are the vehicle through which the world will be healed and repaired. For a brief moment, we have come to consciousness, and we get to experience the mystery and wonder of all being. And then
we will pass on.
While we are here,
While we still have life and consciousness,
we can praise God and sing the song of all creatures. Hallelujah. And now down at the bottom of the page.
Right here.
Yes. I've given you a good teaching, a good vision for building your lives. So don't abandon my Torah. It's a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all who support it are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Ki lekachto natati lachem Torati al ta'azavu Lamachazikim ba v'tacheha Ne'ushtar deracheha Lachenoram V'chol netivoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha benashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kedem Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 next page. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol ha'tekidu laliotze b'reishit shelo asanu kigoyei aratzo v'lo samanu shvechot Shalos Heinu Kahem Vegor Aleinu Im Kol Ha'olam V'anachnu Korim U'mishtachavim U'modim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's go to the next page. And we hope.
I
hope you'll read it with us. And we hope that
all the many gods of divisiveness and distortion,
of pride and destruction,
that all these gods,
broken pieces of the whole,
will find their way back
into the single vessel of life,
that the one might truly become one.
We pray for a Tikkun Olam, a universal healing
and transformation of our world, for peace,
social justice,
ecological sanity,
reconciliation
of antagonists.
Yeah, okay. Repentance.
And forgiveness.
Joyful celebration.
Gentleness.
Pleasure and fun.
Fulfilling relationships.
Fulfillment in our work.
Meaning to our lives.
Evolution of consciousness.
Expansion of our understanding.
It's finishing. Saying Aleinu.
Recognizing the unity of all being.
love permeating all,
May we hold to this vision, which seems so incomprehensible,
despite history,
in the face of despair.
that someday
The source of all being will be the center of all being forever and ever. On that day, the source will be known as one by all the faces of its glory.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shema echad. Page 76. For those who are in mourning, or for those who want to say Kaddish, for all the people who have died so far in this terrible
Virus?
pandemic.
Or anyone else for whom you want to say mourning, you can also put their name into the chat.
It's on page 76, and
It's on the screen.
it's on the screen. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'ama divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beyt Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru,
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam le'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha Richu le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru
Amen.
Yehei shlomo Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael
Yishmael.
v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. And we'll do the Kiddush for anybody who wants to be Yotzei of Kiddush. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית. Page 78. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת. 78. לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם. ביני ובני ישראל אותי לעולם. אותי לעולם נהותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית העולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ שמרו בני ישראל את שבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית העולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית העולם. Remember the seventh day to keep it holy. 6 days you should do all your work and labor. On the seventh day is a Shabbos to God. On it, you should do no work. Neither you, nor any member of your family, nor anybody who works for you, nor any of your animals, nor anybody visiting within your gates. For on 6 days, God made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is within it. And on the seventh day, she rested. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Ouch, good Shabbos.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat,
Shabbat,
Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat, Shabbat.
Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. If we haven't decided when our next one is, we want to know if any of you are interested in going, having this again.
Not going, coming to the
So
here.
if you want to be on this again, if you'd like to see us do this again, please send us an email to I guess to me, rabbilearner.tikkun@gmail. rabbilearner.tikkun@gmail. Let us know that you'd like to be part of this again, and we might schedule it for 2 weeks from now, which will be the first day of
Yes. I'm getting all these yeses in the chat.
Shavuot. Yeah.
Yes, please, absolutely.
Yeah, but we need to know your emails. So if you would send me that email.
What's the email again, please?
No,
I just put it in
No,
the
they're
chat,
not.
rabbilearner.tikkun@gmail.com.
They're not on our list. These are people from all over that they were invited from a lot
So
of different places.
did you get this by our email? Okay, send us your email if you want to be on our list, because we're going to create a more narrow list specifically for this purpose.
If you want to be, yeah. And if you don't think you want to be on these again, don't send us an email. But send it to rabbilearner.tikkun@gmail.com so that we can figure out if there's enough of an interest in continuing some of this. And the next one would possibly be on the first day of Shavuot, which is 2 weeks from today.
Kat, you misspelled it. You put 3 Ks in Tikkun.
Yes.
Oh, that would be my typing. Thank you. Okay, I'll retype it.
RABB.
That's what I get for talking and typing at the same time. rabbilearner.tikkun, 2 Ks @gmail.
Learner spelled L-E-R-N-E-R, not L-E-A-R.
Rabbi Learner, RABBILERNER.tikkun.
gmail.com.
Where do we go to find out more about your class, Kat? Your training.
I put in the chat, but it's also, if you go to spiritualprogressives.org/training.
Say it again. spiritualprogressives.org/training.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Great to be with you. Thank you for being here.
If you can
Professor.
email, those of you who are typing your emails in right now, oh, thank you, Karina. It would be more helpful because it's hard for me to track all your emails right now to get them into the document I need to get them. So if you could just email, you can also email me, kat@spiritualprogressives.org, your email, and just say, I want to continue in these services. That would be great. And yeah, Heidi, thank you. I saw your message about keeping the list expansive. So much love, everyone. Have a good Shabbat. And I hope that you were both nourished for your soul and also inspired to re-ensoul our country and the planet. Many blessings.
Amen. Shabbat shalom, darling.
Shabbat shalom. End the recording.